You're tuned in to the Keetria Show and listening to SOB, Style of Business, the podcast with your host, Keetria. We aim to highlight the ongoing trek of entrepreneurs and business owners from around the globe, featuring stories that recount their struggles, experiences, and inevitable road to success and self-fulfillment. Welcome to SOB.
This podcast is being brought to you by my inspiring new book titled Courage is a Muscle, Using Heart to Power Your Entrepreneurial Dreams. You can grab your copy today on Amazon. Hey, what's up, y'all? Thanks so much for tuning in to another hot episode of SOB, Style of Business, the podcast. This is your host, Keetria, and today we got another wonderful guest by the name of Noel Bagwell, who is a wonderful attorney, author, speaker, and he's also the host of a newly released podcast called Profit from Legal. And look, hey, if you guys have not thought about it, you need to consider, especially if you're a small business, you need to consider looking at the legal services and learning what you need to have in place in order to run your small business efficiently and effectively. And so, like I said, we got an attorney on the line. He's going to be giving us some tips, guidance, advice, hopefully some jewels that we can use, and just kind of keep us from making those mistakes that we small business owners and entrepreneurs tend to make. So let me just allow him to drop that introduction. He's going to be giving us the goods. Make sure you guys are tuned in and plugged in to everything that he has to say, and we will go from there. So, Noel, without further ado, go ahead and drop that intro for us, and we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, I'm Noel Bagwell. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, or the greater Nashville area, and our office is on West End Avenue in Nashville. I founded Executive Legal Professionals about 8 years ago now. It was January of 2013. And I had previously been a solo practitioner just with a general practice. And I was getting a lot of cases that came through my door that were for easily preventable small business matters. And I thought, this is just kind of silly and ridiculous. And I would ask my clients, why didn't you hire a lawyer in the first place? Like, why are you going to court now? Why do you have a lawsuit now? Why do you have a dispute now that you're going to have to spend a lot of money to fix? When you could have prevented this for, peanuts.
Yeah.
And they'd say, well, we didn't think it would be peanuts. We thought it would be really expensive to hire a lawyer. And so it really became obvious to me at that point, again, about 8 years ago, that small businesses don't have the background. They don't have the education. Of course, our public school system doesn't train people in entrepreneurship. It doesn't train them in, business concepts usually very well. So most people, unless they go to business school or they have some corporate experience, they have no idea about working with a lawyer in a business context. And really that plays out in the small business legal marketplace in just really painful ways. 80% of small businesses that have a significant legal event still don't hire a lawyer. Mm. So this idea that people just don't need a lawyer is patently ridiculous, because we're not talking about just like everybody, right? Although I personally believe that every small business does need a lawyer, and I can defend that. But, a lot of people call me on the other lawyers are like, do you really believe that? I actually had another lawyer message me on Facebook. He said, do you really believe that every small business needs a lawyer? And I said, I do, because there's a lot of things that we can do, even in the absence of a dispute or a lawsuit, that add value to the business, that lower the stress of operating the business, and that improve the overall risk profile and make the business more stable. We can actually even add to the profitability of the business and make the business more profitable. So I do believe that. But small business owners historically have just gone without, and they're completely underserved. And that breaks my heart, because small business owners are the number one employer in the United States. They're the backbone of the U.S. economy. They're huge in the aggregate. They're all very small individually, but put together, they're massive. Yeah. And this massive landscape of business is largely underrepresented from the legal standpoint. And that's really sad. In the big corporate world, you don't see that happening. You don't see like Amazon going without legal counsel. It's just, exactly, they have a legion of lawyers, right? They have a big legal department, and you have to ask yourself, well, are small businesses do they just not deserve legal services? Do they just not have legal risks? Both of the answers to that are an obvious no. They do deserve legal services. Everybody should have equal protection of the law. Yeah. And of course, they have legal risks. The real issue for small businesses is that they don't know how to engage with the lawyer in a way that is a profitable proposition for them. They don't know how to get return on investment in legal services. And that's what I'm out to fix.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm glad that you actually kind of jumped right into that, because I can definitely vouch for, being a small business owner and just, in the startup community in general. You start out bootstrapping and you feel like maybe I can't afford an attorney when you know that you need a lawyer to come in and look over some contracts. Because I've been in situations to where you have different legal situations. And, had you had a lawyer in place to kind of look over contracts and to make sure that things were, the way that they needed to be, you could have avoided a lot of the pitfalls, that small business owners kind of come into. And, that is definitely important. And I guess
even beyond.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even beyond, if I can, just even beyond contract review. Contract review is important, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people, you've heard the saying that some people are educated beyond their intelligence. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, yeah.
That
Right.
Someone has, yeah. So like they have a lot of degrees on the wall, or they have credentials that they can hold out to the public, but they really don't have the practical know-how or the critical thinking skills to take the most advantage of that. In a similar way, I often say that you can be really good at what you do, or you can be really good at the business of what you do. And very few people are good at both. There's working in your business and working on your business. This is an important distinction that a lot of thought leaders recently have made. And I want to hammer that down, because I honestly think that when people get so focused on doing what they do, they lose track often in small business, of the business of what they do, especially when they are bootstrapping, like you said, and they don't have a big team. And so they start taking little shortcuts and doing things like just calling a lawyer in to review a contract, right, rather than calling the lawyer to write the contract in the first place, which is what they really ought to do. And beyond even contract work, when was the last time you evaluated the structure of your business and you asked yourself, are we really supposed to be an LLC or a corporation or a partnership? If you're listening to this podcast in Canada, you don't have the limited liability company option. But there's in the United States, there's a lot of material that's produced and put online about, all the benefits of an LLC. And so it really depends on your jurisdiction. Like I have a lot of friends in Canada, and I've, had clients in Europe and other countries and continents. And, it really matters where you are and specifically what you're doing, what the makeup of your small business is. You're in a global marketplace now. You're not in Kansas anymore. Right. So exactly. This is Oz territory. And if you want to compete on that level, and everybody must now, especially after COVID, now that everything's virtual and online, people are sourcing labor online. And if you're going to compete in that online global marketplace, you really need the right fit. So you've got to ask yourself, what is it that a lawyer really does for me? Is it really just, hey, look over these contracts? Or is it, can you come in and actually help me build intellectual property assets? Can you actually help me lay down systems and processes for my team? Can you help me structure the relationships between my business and my employees, vendors and suppliers, clients and customers? Can you help me do some risk forecasting as I grow in the future? What are the risks that I'm going to face, and how can I plan for that now? It's all of that strategic thinking, the problem solving and the relationship management stuff that lawyers bring to bear, and they can do it for small businesses. It's not just a big business thing, and it's not a thing for tomorrow. It's not a thing for someday. It's a thing that you need from day one.
Exactly. And to me, it sounds like that's more of working alongside it kind of like a partnership, because you're working with somebody that's going to help you build your business structure. So it sounds like, looking to secure a lawyer or get a lawyer on retainer would be something that you do at the very beginning of launching a business or startup. Is that correct? Like you want to start as early as possible?
Well, I'll tell you the way we do it. Like I'm loath to tell people how they should do it because I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all solution. That's part of my problem with services like, and forgive me, Universe, but for services like LegalZoom and services like Legal Shield and all of that, but like there's nothing intrinsically wrong with using those services. They're not bad services. They serve a place and they have a proper function and all of that. So I'm not out to disrespect the competition or whatever, although they don't really compete with me on a one-to-one. But the problem with them is that they do all present a one-size-fits-all solution. And I don't think that that's right for small businesses. If you've ever bought a one-size-fits-all like Halloween costume,
exactly, yeah,
you got to ask yourself, how'd that work? How'd that work out for you? How'd that fit? Was the fit good? It's not a good fit. And specifically for small businesses, one of the problems that we encountered early on was the problem of getting them to actually call the lawyer and use the lawyer's services. And we quickly realized that even before we opened our doors, when we were just doing like conceptual development for our business model, because we rebuilt the business model for a law firm from the ground up to support small businesses. So like our whole firm from before we even opened our doors was designed around supporting small businesses. And so we asked ourselves, well, why are these small businesses not hiring a lawyer in the first place? And a huge part of it, not all of it, but a huge part of it was the fact that they could not budget for legal services. Because typically when you hire a lawyer, when you, like you said, put the lawyer on retainer or what have you, what's happening is, the way that process normally works is you come into the lawyer's office, they probably give you a free consultation or charge you a nominal fee, and you come in and you pay the retainer, and it's usually, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 or more, right? Whatever the lawyer's retainer is. And the retainer goes and sits in a trust account. And that account is owned by the state, but the lawyer is a trustee for it. So he has, the rights to manage the account. It's regulated, it's owned by the state, it's heavily monitored by the state. And at least in the United States. So the money just sits there and it's not really doing anything for anybody. It's not really doing anything for the lawyer. It's not really doing anything for you. But as you use the lawyer's services, he bills you hourly against that retainer. And so he has the right, as he delivers the services and earns the fees, to draw money out of that retainer for compensation. And then when it reaches a certain threshold, he sends you a retainer replenishment request. So basically saying, hey, you got to top up. So the practical effect of that for the small business really sucks, because imagine you pay a $5,000 or a $10,000 retainer and your lawyer's billing you at the national average rate of $235 per hour. And let's just say after 13 hours of work, he's racked up a $3,055 bill. Now, when you subtract that from your $5,000 retainer, you've got $1,945 left in the kitty, right? Whenever it drops down to maybe a $2,000 level or a $1,000 level, you're going to get a retainer replenishment request, which means that you've got to top up. So you're going to have to pay that, $3,000. However often it drops to that threshold. It's highly unpredictable. You can't tell, you don't control how much time he spends working on your legal matter, and you don't control when he spends that time. So periodically, you're just getting these kind of bursty requests for a few $1,000s here and there. That will really mess up your cash flow if you're not careful with it. And small business owners, they know this. Even if they don't consciously know it, they feel it intuitively. They're like, because it's an unknown. They know what they don't know. They know that they don't know how much they're really spending or what the bill is until it arrives in their mailbox. And it only takes getting one of those or two of those for you to go, whoa, wait a minute, let's slow this down. It's like, you're on a date and things start going a lot faster than you really want. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, I got to slow this down. This is I don't know that I like you that much just yet. Let's chill.
Exactly.
So that's a big issue for lawyers. And it really speaks to the fundamental problem with the billable hour business model, which is the client is agreeing to a rate, but not a price. And it's kind of like going to CarMax, right? Like people like to shop at CarMax. They buy a car at CarMax because they just pay the sticker price on the windshield. It's simple. It's like a flat. It's not all this extra gobbledygook, all this stuff that they don't understand. These fees and those surcharges and this, that, and the other thing. It's like boom, right there on the windshield. Yeah. And legal services needs to be similar for one-off projects, things like contract review, things like doing a mediation, like a negotiation, or something that requires like a half day. You go in and you're there to resolve the dispute, try to negotiate the resolution and keep people out of court. Little projects like that can all be flat fee projects, and they can be the fees for those can be calculated based on the value that the lawyer delivers to the client. It can be done. We've in fact done it for like 8 years, so we know it can be done.
Exactly.
And ongoing stuff, though. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I love the fact that you guys are actually doing that for small businesses. You go ahead and continue. I want to hear what you're going to say.
Oh yeah, I was going to say for ongoing services, it's a little bit trickier. You think, well, what would be the right solution if I don't want to charge hourly, but I want to deliver really high value to the client, and I understand that that's going to have a certain rhythm and pulse. It's an ongoing service, so they're going to have to pay continually. I mean, the obvious model there is a subscription, right? And a lot of services have gone to subscription-based services, and a lot of lawyers have tried to figure out how to do subscription-based legal services well. And I've even seen, like, there's a lawyer, I can't remember her name, but she's in Southern California, and she does family law. And she does it on a subscription model basis. And I was like, wow, that's really intriguing. For family law, like I guess you just subscribe to your divorce until it's done. Yeah, I don't really know exactly all the details of how it works, but you can kind of imagine. But our solution was to figure out what it is, like what small businesses are actually paying for legal services in various markets. So we go out and gather a ton of statistical data. And it took me about 2 years, but I developed this algorithm that lets me put in all of that statistical data along with location variables, because a lawyer in Denver isn't going to cost the same as a lawyer in like Nashville. Yeah. So we can localize the data and adjust it for different jurisdictions. But we put all of these complex calculations into our algorithm, and all we have to do is tell the algorithm how big the business is, which is measured by the business's revenue. That's the same way that the U.S. Small Business Administration measures the size of a business. We tell it the size of the business, and we tell it where the business is, and we tell it how many lawyers are needed to support the business. And that kind of scale, we have like a sliding scale. The bigger the business is, the more lawyers we assign to the account to make sure that they're fully supported, and that they're not having like long wait times for work product requests and stuff like that. So we put in all the variables about the size and location of the business, and it tells us based on what other businesses are spending. So basically market data, right? What that business should be spending annually on preventive legal services. The magic of this is now you have basically a budget for your outsourced legal department. And we break that up into easy payments for you. And it's a subscription. It's a subscription-based outsourced legal department for your small business.
Oh, wow.
Just to put this into context, we can do like a quote for you live in this call if you would like. And you can give me like just give me the most random information about a business, and I'll tell you exactly what it would cost to support that. So like, let's start with the location. Anywhere in the United States, just pick a major city.
Okay, let's go for Dallas.
All right, cool. Dallas, Texas. All right. In Texas, Dallas. And what about the size of the business? I mean, most small businesses are, under 25 million in revenue.
Oh, okay. Like,
10 people.
Yeah, so 10 people. Let's say 15 million in revenue or something that way. Something along those lines.
All right. So 15 million. For a business of 15 million in revenue, we would recommend up to 3 attorneys to support that business. Up to, that's a maximum. Depending on the business and like what legal work that you need, you might get away with 2, but let's just put in 3. And when we calculate that, the legal budget for a $15 million business is $326,300.66. So that's what you should be spending annually based on the market data, that would be what you should be spending. Now, most people are going to say, okay, but how do I know if I spend $326,300.66 a year on legal services? How do I know that that's a good deal for me? And how do I know that that's a positive ROI, like a profitable proposition? Exactly. Well, the good deal is easier to answer. What we can do is we can compare it to the alternative. The alternative would be maybe you have an in-house legal department. Maybe you don't do outsourced legal department. Maybe you don't have what we call outside general counsel, right? Maybe you don't have that. Maybe you say, well, it might be just cheaper to hire them all as employees and bring them in-house. And plus, we could probably ask them to do things that are legal adjacent, that are not necessarily like strictly legal tasks. There are some like business tasks or HR tasks or whatever. Depending on their skill set, we might be able to get even more value out of them.
Exactly.
But yeah, and a lot of that's a big trend in the law. Like a lot of businesses that are, especially larger businesses, are trending towards in-house counsel because they can fulfill a more diverse array of roles within the company. But if you were going to hire those 3 lawyers, it would cost you in salary alone, and this is a rough estimate just based on reasonable, like sort of middle of the road compensation. So it would cost you about $532,800 in compensation alone for those 3 attorneys. So by using our service, the Signet General Counsel service that we offer, you'd be saving $206,499.34. And people always ask me, why do you put in the cents? I'm like, because it matters.
Exactly.
You know, that level of, every penny matters. Every penny of profitability matters. Save a penny saved is a penny earned. And so I always tell people, we can tell you down to the penny what it ought to cost you. And if we can save that business, over $200,000 versus in-house counsel, we know that we can be super competitive. But the other question, how do you know it's a positive ROI proposition is a bit more complex.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. I wanted to add, I know you mentioned, that this would be a good starting point for a business of the based in Dallas. It's, earning $15 million in revenue. Is this all pertaining to preventative? Preventative
yep.
law? Oh, okay.
It's preventive.
Okay, preventive. Okay,
yep, preventive law.
Now explain a little bit more for those who are not familiar with that, because I'm not fully understanding what that is. So just kind of go back and, if you can, just provide some more details on what that actually does.
Yeah, absolutely. Preventive law, it sounds like it's all about legal risk prevention, and it is primarily about legal risk prevention. So there are 3 phases of a lawsuit, right? So the first phase is you have a risk. You've got some potential, like if you do these things wrong, you're going to have a problem. Okay, that would be a risk. If there's something that you should do that you don't do, or there's something that you should not do and you do it.
Right.
So the potential for that to happen is what we consider to be a risk. And all of those things can be pretty well forecasted in advance, for the most part. Nobody's perfect, and there's no perfect system, and you can't completely eliminate risk. But to the extent that you can forecast it, you can have a plan. And so you can be better off at the margins than you would be without a plan if you put a plan in place. So that's really what it's all about. It's about proper prior planning. Proper prior planning prevents pitifully poor performance. And that's what we want to do. We want to improve your performance versus risk. So we put the plan in place, and then we hope that there's not a problem. And we track all of this. We kind of keep an eye on risks. We talk about the risks with the client, and we say, what are you doing to prevent these risks from becoming a problem, and how can we help? How can we be a part of that? It's a lot of communication. It's conversation. So we do a lot of that, and I'm kind of boiling it down into the most essential elements. Like the actual process is pretty technical, but it's guided by the lawyer who has the technical expertise to make it simple for you and help you through it, so that ultimately the lawyer is saying, have you thought about this, and would you like to do this about it? And if they say, well, we haven't thought about that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we do keep it simple. We're not here to like bury people in legalese. I hate legalese.
Yeah.
So I hate legalese, and I hate lawsuits. And people are like, why did you become a lawyer? I'm like, because I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I think you should do what you're good at. So then the second phase of a lawsuit is a problem. Somebody didn't keep track of their legal risks, or there was some externality that was unforeseeable, some circumstance, or somebody did something, or somebody didn't do something that, people weren't keeping their eye on the ball. And it might not be anybody's fault, right? Like, nobody saw COVID coming.
Exactly.
That's a huge problem for a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a legal problem, but it has ripples in the legal community and in the legal aspects of your business. Things like, I had a buddy in Canada, and I can actually, we had to reschedule a meeting, and he said he was having some legal issue. And I said, is it anything that I can help you with? I know you're all the way up there. And he said, well, it's the specifics of Canadian COVID law, really. So it's not really anything that you can help with. He said someone was recalled from a temporary layoff, and they declined to come back to work. And we're issuing a record of employment, and he's saying he's entitled to unlimited leave under their new infectious disease emergency leave, which their employers in Canada cannot require evidence to support the claim. So it's kind of like similar to like a workers' comp claim, but the employer is hamstrung. They can't really like ask him a lot of questions because of privacy issues.
Yeah.
And he says he's taking care of a family member, and they canceled her benefits and stuff. And so it's like this whole mess because of COVID, and it really isn't directly related to COVID, but the laws that they passed because of COVID, and then the circumstances of having to like call out of work, it all has legal implications for the business, because normally what they would do is just let him go.
Yeah.
And he's saying, you can't fire me. I'm unfireable because my employment is protected under this new COVID related laws. And basically I get unlimited family leave time. And they're like, well, we're understaffed, and if we go and hire a new person, then our budget for staffing is going to be over. We're going to have to overspend, and you can't effectively terminate someone by leaving them on your work roster and then just not assigning them any hours, because they'll say that they've constructively been fired. So there are all of these like really messy issues that you can't always forecast. Those can be big problems. A lot of the problems can be prevented. Most of the problems can be prevented. That's the good news. Yeah. But in the event that you can't prevent a risk, it becomes a problem. And then that's where you really need to start like doing some damage control fast, because the problem quickly can become a crisis, and it can get completely out of hand. And I would define a crisis as a lawsuit, for one thing, or the government coming in and taking some kind of like regulatory action against your business, where, now you have fines and penalties and stuff like that. We definitely want to prevent the crisis, but it's like that, Barney Fife from Andy Griffith's show, right? Nip it in the bud.
Hey, you got to
nip it in the bud. You get it before it's a big problem.
Exactly. No, and I tell you what, I appreciate you kind of going a little bit more in depth and explaining that. Because, it's good to kind of know, and especially for, like I said, any small business owner or entrepreneur that may be listening. Noel, tell us a little bit about who's a perfect candidate for your services. I know we're talking about small businesses, but is there a specific industry or, category type? Like, give us a little bit more on that before we get ready to wrap up here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the perfect candidate is a candidate that wants to learn how to profit from having legal services, because, and I would, you might think like demographics and psychographics and all that stuff, like what is the psychology of your perfect client, and, what is their age and race and geographic area and all the identity stuff. I have that data, but I don't like that data. I don't like the story that the data tells. And let me unpack that a little bit, because it's actually kind of interesting, right? Like, as I was doing research when we were developing Profit from Legal, which is our new service as a product, it's a service delivered as a product. It's designed to be scalable. And we've designed this program so that a lot of people could participate in the program at a certain time or at the same time, but we really don't want that. What we want to have is a high attorney to client ratio, or, basically want to have a small number of clients for each attorney that's delivering this service, because we want a lot of personal attention, and we really want the clients to feel like cared for, and to feel that the service is customized for them. Yeah. I'm using the word feel a lot, you might notice, and that's weird for a lawyer. Usually lawyers don't care a whole lot about your feelings. They just care about, the results.
Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I think it really matters. I'm obsessed with the client experience. That's what drives me, is I have this obsession with every client being a raving fan. And that comes from before law school. Even I was in business. I had about 26 jobs before law school, and I was fired from about a quarter of them because I am not satisfied with the status quo, and I would tend to rock the boat a bit. People were like, oh man, this guy, he's way too intense, or, he's doing things in an unorthodox way. We're not okay with it. We have to, hew to the way that things are. And it was just very, I found it to be very rigid and territorial. And that didn't always go over really well, because I was always saying, we could do better. We can be better. Why aren't we doing it this way? Why aren't we doing it that way? And people didn't really like that.
Yeah.
They were like, why can't you just go along to get along? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really wired like that.
Right.
But when I started getting into the data about all of this, I did the demographic research. I asked, how old are they? Are they men? Are they women? What's their sexual preference? What's their nationality? How much money do they earn? What do they do for work? What's their title? And I was thinking, if you're going to reach all of these people, where, why you might ask, well, why would you even care what their sexual preference? Well, what media are they consuming? Where would I advertise? Where can I make them aware? Where can I put information in their path so that they will encounter it and be aware of what we're trying to do for them? And so I've asked all those questions, and I did not like the picture that was painted. On average, small business owners are 50.3 years old. Entrepreneurs in the construction industry are the youngest. They're at 48.3 years on average, and financial, insurance, and real estate professionals are the oldest at 54.1 years. I can break this down with great specificity. 73% of the small business owners are men. 73%. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Immigrants have founded 55% of the unicorn startups in the U.S. Right. So 86.3% of small business owners take a salary of less than $100,000.
Right. Yeah.
So, we know we can break down the demographics, but the question is not who are they? It's who can these people be? Who can a successful small business owner be? That's the better question for me, not who are the people who've already made it or who are already doing this. That's expert thinking, and experts are masters of old knowledge and old wisdom. That they're masters of understanding what got us here and what is currently working or what is considered to be working. Right.
Right. Yeah.
The masters of future wisdom are the entrepreneurs. They're the ones who have the ideas for the future. They're the Elon Musks of the world that drive us forward. Yeah. They're you might love him or hate him, but Mark Zuckerberg, love him or hate him, Jeff Bezos, love him or hate him, Bill Gates. However you feel about these people, it's undeniable that these people have presented brand new tools, brand new technologies, brand new ways of doing things, innovations, that have driven humanity forward, at least technologically speaking, and in terms of improving our quality of life. And I don't think that you ought to limit yourself to men in their 50s, exactly. For example. Yeah, right. Is that really a thing? Do we really need all our entrepreneurs? Should we customize our legal content to just men in their 50s? I don't know. I don't have anything against men in their 50s. Yeah, but I tend to think that anybody with a good idea that moves the needle on solving a meaningful problem for the world can be an entrepreneur. And I want to make our services accessible to everybody, regardless of the demographics. So the whole ideal client thing from a demographic standpoint, I know it. And I don't completely ignore it, but that's not really what I'm out to. I'm not out to speak to someone's identity, because I want to be identity agnostic. Yeah. If you're identity agnostic, if you're just not speaking to a person's race or speaking to a person's age or speaking to a person's faith or whatever constructs their identity, if you're not speaking to those things, if instead you're speaking to their mind, you're speaking to their values, you're speaking to their identity as a thinker, I think then your message will be more universal. I believe your message will be more universal. It'll be more appealing, and it will be unifying. It will bring people together. When you speak to someone's race or to their age or to whatever, category or class of person they are, you necessarily exclude everybody who's not in that category.
Yeah.
So it's divisive. And the only way to really unite people around good ideas is to ignore the demographics and speak to the shared values. So improved profitability, adding more value to your business, lowering stress, lowering risk. Those are things that every single entrepreneur, regardless of demographics, can say, yeah, that's for me. I love that. I want more of that. So that's what we speak to. In terms of like revenue and business life cycle and that, I will say that profit from legal, learning how to profit from having legal support, it kind of comes in two flavors, just like our outside general counsel comes in two flavors. I quoted you the cost of Signet, but what I didn't say is that for businesses that have less than $1 million in revenue, the micro businesses, the early stage startups, the people who are super small, that's too much. That's too much. And number one, it's too much service. They're not going to use all of that on a regular basis, and it's too much cost. It's not going to fit in their budget. And custom tailoring your legal support to fit the budget for the business is absolutely essential to making the relationship work. So we offer a service called Legal Lifeline, and it's available for $4,800 annually or $1,500 every 90 days, $1,500 per quarter. So you save about $100 a month if you break it down doing the annual. And it includes unlimited remote legal consultation service. It includes all your legal research, basically all the things that lawyers use to nickel and dime, we just include all of those things. It doesn't have the robust support of the Signet service, but it costs a lot less. And those incidental services, things like contract drafting and stuff like that, alternative dispute resolution, they're still available to the Legal Lifeline clients, but we just charge a flat fee, and we charge it on an as-needed basis instead of including it in your subscription, which would be much more expensive. So we have those solutions. But for profit from legal, in terms of learning how to make your legal service more profitable, the full program isn't going to be for everybody. It's primarily going to benefit businesses that have more than $1 million in revenue, and specifically what we think, and this is still really early stages of development, so don't interpret this in an exclusive way. Yeah. We think the people who are really going to be on the high end of the bell curve for benefit are businesses that have between 10 million and 50 million in revenue. Okay. But, again, that's like the high end of the bell curve. Most small businesses are going to be, probably in that $1 to $25 million range. That's what the U.S. Small Business Administration tends to classify a small business as a business that has less than 25 million in revenue. So we would consider a $25 million revenue business to be kind of at the top of the bell curve, like right there in the middle. It is all on a curve. We understand that. We're not trying to exclude anybody, but we do want to speak honestly to who it's best designed for. And for those businesses that have less than $1 million, we don't want to leave them out. Okay. What we offer is an insight workshop, and the cost on that is about $2,500. It's a half-day workshop. They get a really valuable keynote presentation from us. We unpack the Profit from Legal scorecard that we've developed, which is, by the way, a free tool that anybody can take. You go to profitfromlegal.scoreapp.com. Okay. You just sign on there, put in your information. You take the legal profitability scorecard, and it'll tell you how well your lawyer is doing at improving the legal profitability of your business. And then it'll give you a couple of free things. I like our profit from legal report and the 5 legal E's canvas, which is our signature method. We call it the 5 legal E's because we like the legal E's. That's a step-by-step method. We don't like legal E's, which is a bunch of gobbledygook.
Yeah. We need it right size, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So we kind of walk people through all of that. They get the keynote presentation. We do the unpacking of the scorecard results. We do some Q&A, and then we leave them with really meaningful insights and a customized report that says, here's where you are today, and here's where you've said that you want to go. And we believe that taking these first steps will be the path to improved legal profitability. And when you're ready, we'll be here with the full Profit from Legal program. And if a small business, just say that they're like an $800,000 in revenue business, maybe they have a very small team of 5 to 10 employees, they're early stages, they definitely know that they need the full program. They need to integrate, legal services with their regular operations and use legal services to be more profitable. But they're not quite there yet. They're not willing to go through a 6-month business development program, where it's pretty intensive. It's a little bit expensive, but very worthwhile. Like it pays for itself. They're not just there yet, but they can do the workshop. So we get them into the workshop, we deliver a really high value there. And then if they come back and they say, okay, now we're ready for the full program, we apply the fee that they paid for the workshop as a credit, 100% towards the cost of the full program.
Oh, wow.
So nothing is lost. Yeah, basically anybody who's been through the workshop, they're not going to have to pay the full price for the full Profit from Legal program because we take the fee they paid for the workshop and apply it to the full program. So they get a nice discount. It's kind of a discount, but really there's a bit of overlap in the very initial phases of the delivery of the full Profit from Legal program. There's a little bit of overlap with the workshop, and we just don't ever want people to feel like they're paying double. For even like the tiniest sliver of the same content. We don't want people to feel that way. It is about a great client experience. And when they go through the full Profit from Legal program, ultimately the win at the end of it, the prize at the end of the whole thing is they will have the means and the knowledge to make the best use of that preventive legal service, that ongoing legal service. They'll know how to use a lawyer to make their business more valuable, like actually change the value of their business. But like today you could sell your business for X, tomorrow you can sell it for Y. And the difference is you brought a lawyer in to help you build assets in your business and do asset building. We can make your business less stressful by helping to set expectations and put contracts in place that manage the relationships. Yeah. And then we can make the business, less vulnerable to legal risk by doing all of that legal risk forecasting, having the conversations, putting plans in place. It's all very Tyrion Lannister, honestly. If you ever watched Game of Thrones, I kind of think of Tyrion as like the perfect lawyer to deliver this service. If you were in the Game of Thrones world, it would be like plans within plans and strategies and that. So either him or Varys, one or the other. Well, I'm also a huge nerd, if you haven't noticed, but that works in my favor as well.
We love nerds. You definitely have brought the goods and have provided a lot of valuable insight. And I'll tell you what, before we wrap up, Noel, I know you have given us your website and some information, but if anybody wants to reach out to get, maybe a consultation or some additional information, go ahead and let us know where we can reach you online, and then just maybe drop just a word of encouragement. And this has been good. This has been good.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that it was valuable content for you. I mean, that really is everything to me. We have a couple of places where you can get some good information. There's a free Profit from Legal Facebook group. You can jump into that. We post, like, whenever we write articles that we would post on our blog or other places around the internet, they always get linked from the Facebook group. We link episodes to the Profit from Legal podcast in the Facebook group. So that's really become a hub for information about what we're doing. We just bought the domain profitfromlegal.com. This product is really new. It's really revolutionary. Like no other lawyers that I know of are even doing this or trying to do this. Nobody's out there trying to show small businesses how they can profit from having legal support, as far as I know, other than us. Yeah. So we're kind of the only game in town for doing that. But it's ExecutiveLP.com /profit-from-legal. And we're in the process of pointing the domain name straight to that page, but we also have links on the homepage that'll get you there from the menu. And you can, from that page, it'll link you straight to our Profit from Legal scorecard. You can book in for a Profit from Legal workshop right there from the main page. So, and then of course, joining the Facebook group is, you're going to get links to all of this stuff. And listen to the podcast. You'll get even more detailed information about how we do what we do and what we're all about and all that jazz. I don't want to take up too much of your time just plugging my stuff, But to answer your question, that's probably the best place to go to get what you're looking for.
All right. Perfect. Hey,
in terms of word of encouragement,
there we go. Yep.
I will leave you with one. Yeah, word of encouragement. I want to actually share a great quote by Sun Tzu, and one by a Frenchman named Yvon Chouinard. Right. Yvon Chouinard said, "Profit is what happens when you get everything else right." Profit is what happens when you get everything else right.
Oh, wow.
And I think that is one of the most core concepts to profit from legal, because that's what we're all about, is helping you get everything else in your business right. Are you adding the right value to your business? Are you doing the things that will keep you from burning out in your business, managing your stress? I mean, stress is a killer. I mean, literally, like, kills people with heart attacks, but also kills your business because it robs you of your passion. If you're stressed out, you're not going to be in love with what you do. You're going to feel bad instead of feeling good. And so you really do need to manage that. And then, of course, the legal risk side of it. Like, for most small businesses, they're so fragile. They're so vulnerable. One lawsuit could easily tank a business. I once heard a statistic that you're not really lawsuit proof until you're over $100 million in revenue. And that blew my mind. I was like, wow. So up to that point, given the right circumstances, a single lawsuit could, if it was the right lawsuit, kind of perfect storm situation, it could tank your business. So, once you're up to 100 million in revenue, I guarantee you've got at least, you got more than one lawyer. You got a bunch of lawyers. If you've got 100 million in revenue, you've got several lawyers protecting you.
Yeah, you should have a good legal counsel by that hour, So Go ahead.
Yeah, and that doesn't all happen all at once, right? Like, it's not just like all of a sudden you have $100 million in revenue and like an army of lawyers show up on your doorstep. Like, we're here to protect you. No, it's something that you build along the way as you go, right? This sort of leads back to what Sun Tzu said. The Yvon Chouinard, profit is what happens when you get everything else right. It sort of rests on a deep wisdom by Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War. He said, "Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win." And what we want people to do is have the means to win first. The lawsuit is won before you ever go to court, because you've laid the foundation. You've had a strategy all along for how to protect yourself from legal risk. You've been monitoring those risks from before they became problems. You've got good, well-written contracts drafted by a lawyer governing your relationships. You're keeping your eye on the law as it changes and as it impacts your business. You have won first. And then if someone is foolish enough to go to war with you, I can't always guarantee victory, but you're going to be in a far, far better position than you would be if you said, well, let's just wing it. And then you pick the fight, not really knowing what you were getting into. And then you're trying to win a lawsuit that way. It almost never works out well.
Never works. You got to have the strategy. All right. Well, hey, Noel, we gotta have you back, guys. We just heard from Noel Bagwell, who is the owner and the president of ExecutiveLP. Hey, you guys get in touch, because he has a lot of good information, good tools, workshops, services that we small business owners and entrepreneurs could use. And Noel, we're gonna have you back. I know that we have so much more to discuss, but we definitely appreciate you for being a great guest, and looking forward to all the wonderful things that you have coming down the pipeline. I know the podcast is off to a good start, so thank you so much.
Absolutely. It might be fun to do like a Q&A sometime. If you're listening, send in some questions and ask a lawyer. I'd be happy to show up and just field legal questions and, deliver some really good value to your audience that way. But thank you so much for having me on. I'm always happy to come back anytime you'd like.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on SOB. We hope this episode has been resourceful. If you'd like to check out the latest articles or follow Keetria's website updates, just log on to Keetria.com or follow her on Twitter at KEETRIA.